And we begin with the breaking news from Wall Street. Trading has been underway now for just about 30 minutes, and nervous investors, very nervous investors, are weighing in on President Trump's historic new global tariffs. The early assessment, deep concerns. Almost all goods entering the United States will face a new tax of at least 10%, and that means inflation-weary Americans will see even higher prices on virtually everything.
That was real-time panic. Wall Street is already collapsing over Trump's tariff threats. And this? He's just getting started. Donald Trump just triggered a financial earthquake, and Wall Street is still shaking. In one of the most aggressive economic moves of his post-presidency political crusade, Trump announced sweeping new tariffs targeting a massive range of foreign goods, and the impact was instant. Within hours of his press conference, the Dow Jones plummeted over 700 points. The Nasdaq bled red. S&P futures went into freefall. And across the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, seasoned traders were caught on camera in disbelief as billions of dollars in market value evaporated. This wasn't a slow leak, it was a full-blown rupture. But what shocked the financial world wasn't just the scale, it was the sheer unpredictability. Trump's new tariff package doesn't just hit China, it slams the brakes on imports from key allies. European steel, Canadian aluminum, Mexican auto parts, and even South Korean semiconductors are now under threat. In one brutal stroke, Trump managed to antagonize both adversaries and allies, signaling that under his potential return, globalization as we know it is over. Financial institutions immediately sounded the alarm. Goldman Sachs issued an internal report warning of severe market disruption and multi-sector instability. J.P. Morgan analysts told investors to brace for prolonged volatility, supply chain shocks, and inflationary pressure not seen since the COVID era. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, usually slow to react politically, called Trump's move a reckless gamble with America's economic stability. Even Fox Business, normally aligned with pro-Trump narratives, broadcast a segment showing factory CEOs pleading with the government to reconsider. Hedge funds started rapidly dumping shares in logistics, tech manufacturing, and retail importers. Apple, which relies heavily on overseas assembly, saw a $40 billion market cap hit in less than 24 hours. Meanwhile, oil prices spiked as investors feared retaliatory action from the Middle East. And if that wasn't enough to jolt global markets, Trump followed it up with a chilling warning. Tariffs are the only language foreign leaders understand. We're taking back control. That single line caused tremors far beyond U.S. borders. European Union officials threatened retaliatory duties. China's Ministry of Commerce reportedly went into emergency lockdown mode. Canadian leaders condemned the move as a betrayal of trade partnership. Inside the White House, even some Republican strategists are growing nervous, privately calling the tariffs political poison with economic consequences. And for average Americans? The fallout is just beginning. Expect rising prices on everything from electronics to groceries, layoffs in export-dependent industries, and worsening inflation. This isn't just economic theater, it's financial warfare, and Trump just fired the first shot. This wasn't just an economic move. It was a political message. Donald Trump isn't playing by traditional campaign rules anymore. He's betting that chaos, fear, and disruption will fuel his comeback, and the tariffs are just step one. Behind closed doors, sources from Trump's inner circle confirm what Wall Street fears. This was a deliberate shock strategy. Advisors reportedly told Trump that he needed a headline move to dominate the news cycle, distract from legal troubles, and force his rivals into reaction mode. And it worked. Within hours, Biden's team scrambled to address market instability, while Trump's loyal media machine spun the crisis as strength. He's protecting American workers, they claimed. But economists aren't buying it, and neither are moderate voters. Analysts are calling it the most reckless financial stunt since Nixon's 1971 wage price freeze, and the timing couldn't be more calculated. It dropped just days before new polling data, right as Trump's approval ratings dipped amid criminal trial headlines. What makes this moment even more dangerous is how Trump's political survival is now directly tied to economic turmoil. The more the markets spiral, the more he claims vindication. In his words, "I told you globalism would fail. I told you America was being ripped off. Now I'm fixing it." It's a populist message, but with global consequences. Supply chains are already reacting. Cargo ships are being rerouted. Retailers are scrambling to secure domestic sources for basic goods. And small businesses, the same ones Trump claims to protect, are quietly panicking. With prices rising and raw material costs skyrocketing, many face the threat of closure within weeks. But none of that matters to Trump politically, because this isn't about solutions. It's about spectacle, and the spectacle is working. Right-wing influencers flooded social media with videos of empty store shelves and factory workers cheering Trump's speech. Conservative pundits framed the market crash not as a crisis, but as evidence that Wall Street is scared of Trump putting America first again. On the surface, it sounds like patriotic economics. But dig deeper, and the risks are staggering. Behind the camera-ready slogans lies a fragile economy pushed closer to the edge. Mortgage rates jumped overnight. The dollar weakened. International investors started pulling capital from U.S. startups. And quietly, within tech circles, fears of a 2022-style collapse are bubbling again. Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He's weaponizing uncertainty and daring the establishment to stop him. The real question is, can they before the damage becomes irreversible? Inside the Biden administration, panic is simmering beneath the surface. While the president projected calm in his brief press appearance, saying, "We will not be baited into reckless trade wars," the truth is far messier. White House aides, according to leaks from Politico and Axios, were blindsided by the speed and aggression of Trump's move. They expected posturing, not a full-scale economic provocation. And now, they're caught in a bind. Retaliate and risk escalating the financial fallout, or stay quiet and let Trump dominate the narrative. Biden's advisors know they're walking a tightrope. Publicly, they must appear stable and mature. But behind closed doors, there's real fear that Trump is dragging the country into economic chaos to burn everything down and claim power from the wreckage. What's worse is that the traditional Democratic messaging machine has no playbook for this. They're up against someone who thrives on destabilization, not diplomacy. Trump doesn't care if Wall Street tanks or if the US dollar plummets. If he can point to the ashes and say, "This was broken before I got here," he wins politically. And that has left Biden's team scrambling. As one senior official told reporters anonymously, "We're not dealing with a normal opponent. We're dealing with someone who wants the system to collapse." The administration is now urgently working with international allies, trying to prevent a trade domino effect. Canada and Mexico are already weighing emergency responses. The EU hinted at new tariffs if the US destabilizes the global steel and aluminum market. Meanwhile, Beijing has remained suspiciously quiet, likely waiting to see if Trump's gamble sparks a full-blown recession. In domestic politics, the silence is just as damning. Moderate Republicans, usually quick to distance themselves from Trump's extremes, have said nothing. That silence is strategic. They see which way the wind is blowing, and right now, Trump is dominating the political oxygen. Even corporate lobbyists, who traditionally lean pro-trade, have hesitated to challenge him publicly. Why? Because Trump's influence over the GOP base is stronger than ever. CEOs fear becoming the next enemy of the people in one of his viral Truth Social rants. The White House sees this clearly. They're fighting an enemy who doesn't play by the rules and who's willing to tank the economy if it boosts his chances in November. Biden's team is holding emergency strategy sessions, testing new messaging angles, and prepping for town halls. But there's a looming realization that policy alone won't win this fight. Trump's move has changed the game. The economic battlefield is now the political one. and Biden may have just walked into a trap. For years, Donald Trump and Wall Street had a delicate, transactional relationship. He gave them tax cuts, deregulation, and the illusion of economic strength. In return, the market soared, at least on the surface. But now, that relationship is fracturing, and fast. Major financial institutions are no longer hedging their bets. They're actively bracing for what one analyst called the Trump shockwave. On the trading floor, hedge fund managers and investment banks have started issuing internal warnings about volatility levels not seen since the 2008 crash. Goldman Sachs, once cautiously optimistic, is now circulating risk models showing a potential 15 to 20% drop in market value if Trump follows through on the next wave of tariffs. And Morgan Stanley issued a rare statement urging clients to move into safer asset classes. That's not just caution, it's panic in disguise. Behind the scenes, CEOs from Fortune 500 companies are reportedly holding late-night Zoom calls, discussing how to respond if Trump regains office. Many of them fear they'll be publicly targeted, especially those connected to international trade or who've previously spoken out against him. Trump's recent comments haven't helped calm nerves. He's doubled down, saying, "Corporate America sold out this country. We're taking it back." That kind of rhetoric, once dismissed as campaign bluster, is now causing real investor fear. Stocks linked to multinational operations like Apple, Boeing, Nike, and Caterpillar have already taken hits. And in a symbolic sign of just how serious the anxiety has become, the S&P VIX index, often called the fear gauge, spiked to its highest level since the banking scares earlier this year. But it's not just the markets, it's the psychology of the money class that's shifting. Wealthy donors who once lined Trump's re-election coffers are now pulling back. Several Wall Street billionaires, many of whom donated in 2020, have begun quietly redirecting funds toward GOP alternatives like Nikki Haley, or are sitting the cycle out entirely. They're not flipping to Biden, they're freezing, unsure whether Trump is still manageable or has become a full-blown risk to their business models. And this is exactly what Trump seems to want. He's turning his back on the elite donor class, weaponizing their fear as evidence that he's fighting for the forgotten American. In doing so, he's cornering Wall Street, forcing them to either resist him publicly and risk backlash, or stay silent and watch their portfolios burn. Either way, he's flipped the script. The man once embraced by corporate America is now its greatest threat. And as this economic war escalates, it's clear. Trump isn't just disrupting politics anymore. He's detonating the financial world from the inside out. If you think this is just another Trump outburst that'll fade away, think again. This time, the consequences are real, and they're already starting to hit. Behind the headlines, financial analysts are issuing quiet warnings. If Trump follows through on his threat to obliterate $5 trillion in federal spending and choke out subsidies that support everything from clean energy to big tech infrastructure, the U.S. economy could enter a tailspin. The industries that keep America globally competitive, semiconductors, electric vehicles, AI development, are all deeply dependent on government-backed funding. Trump's promise to cut that lifeline isn't just about saving taxpayer money. It's an ideological war against what he sees as a corrupt elite system, even if it means blowing up the engine that drives the modern economy. What makes this moment even more dangerous is the timing. The global economy is already teetering. With wars abroad, inflation still volatile, and consumer confidence fragile, Trump's threats inject a new level of uncertainty. Exactly what investors, businesses, and workers can't afford right now. The idea of canceling billions in federal contracts, slashing tech subsidies, and gutting trade partnerships with nations like China might sound like tough talk, but it could set off a domino effect. Think layoffs, think plant shutdowns, think the kind of market crash that doesn't just scare Wall Street, but crushes ordinary Americans' retirement accounts and job security. It's a scenario financial strategists are now running war game simulations on, and in almost every model, the outcome is chaos. Meanwhile, Trump is doubling down, portraying himself as the only one strong enough to fix what he claims is a broken, bloated system. And his base loves it. They don't care about the market. They want revenge for job losses, for inflation, for feeling ignored. Trump is feeding that rage and turning economic destruction into a political strategy. The more Wall Street panics, the more he spins it as proof that he's on the right track. In this new political reality, economic fear isn't a weakness. It's a weapon. So where does that leave America? Trapped between two versions of the future, one where the financial system limps along with all its flaws, and another where Trump tears it apart to build something new, on his own terms. Either way, the fuse is lit. What started as a policy threat is now a ticking economic time bomb. And if it goes off, it won't just be CEOs and hedge funds scrambling. It'll be every American feeling the shockwaves. This isn't politics as usual. This is the beginning of a financial war, and it's Trump who's calling the shots.